So, one of the questions I get asked most in life is whether you can play Fortnite at 1080p with the GTX 750 Ti in performance mode at 100 frames per second. Well, we are here to find out. So, you'll see here that we have a GTX 750 Ti. This card was released in 2014. This is the 2GB version. It's not the fastest card out there, but it served the people well in 2014. And today we are pairing it with a Ryzen 9 5900X. You'll see we've got the latest NVMe drivers loaded, 512.95 at the time of recording. And the nice thing about the 7 series is that NVIDIA still supports it with new driver updates. We also have 16GB of DDR4 memory running at 3600 MHz. You don't need more than that because obviously we'll run into bottlenecks with the GTX 750 Ti long before we run out of memory. We're first going to try the game at 1080p native resolution. Frame rate limit is unlimited and we are running at 100% 3D resolution. View distance is set to epic, obviously, because you want to see where people are shooting you from. But for now, we are running on DirectX 11. We'll switch to performance mode after the first run. We just want to see whether this card can actually handle this game at 1080p native. Okay, we're about to drop in. I've got the performance numbers there in the top left, and you can see that we're getting almost about 60 frames per second. We are recording the 1% lows and the 0.1% lows, and then we've got the frame time graph as well. Got no idea where we're supposed to be going. This is my 4th time playing this game, but I think we're going to go to Tilted Towers. Dropping in, it's not looking terrible. Got a nice looking flower for some reason, and we're just going to land in one of these buildings here, or close to one of these buildings here, just get a few weapons. Hopefully we survived long enough to actually get a decent benchmark run in. Can't promise anything. Got no idea what I'm supposed to be doing in this game. As I said, it's probably the 3rd time I'm playing this game. I do know that there are chests and stuff that you can loot. Oh, like this one. And you get weapons and stuff. So, alright, so we got our first weapon. So seems to be a shotgun. So inside we're getting about 90 frames per second, which is definitely not bad, especially given the age of this card. The frame time consistency is also not too bad, so not a lot of stuttering going on. I was gonna grab this gun, see if I can kill that guy. As I said, I don't really play this game. If I wanted to see cartoon characters try and kill each other, I would rather switch on Tom and Jerry. Oh, we got our first kill. And playing outside, we're getting above 60 frames per second almost all the time. Doesn't look too bad. Although with a game like Fortnite, seeing that it's a competitive online shooter, you would prefer obviously a few more frames per second if you can have it. I would say 100 plus for an online competitive shooter. That should be fine. All in all, this card's definitely not doing too bad at 1080p native. Remember, all settings are set to very low except for the view distance. Even here in the more grassy areas, the frames per second, it's definitely not too bad. Still getting above 60, well, most of the time anyway. Did drop below 60 there for a little bit. So obviously not ideal, but definitely playable. What's that, an NPC? Yeah, this is an NPC. Not the best shot. Neither am I there, but I won that battle. Right, now that we're in a safe-ish area, I'm gonna enable performance mode. One thing that I forgot to mention is that we actually have to finish this game before we can enable performance mode because the game needs a reboot. Right, so there's 2 people here. If I can kill them both, then we can maybe win. Let's see. Okay, and 1 person left. Oh, there we go. And we won. Not because I've got any skill, but just because this card performs brilliantly. So at the end of that run, we had an average of 77 frames per second. I'm not too concerned about the 0.1% load. That actually happened during a menu transition, so it's not too bad. 77 average FPS and 1% lows of 42 frames per second. All right, let's enable performance mode and let's see how it goes. Okay, so we've just enabled performance mode. It's still in beta and it's supposed to trade off visual quality for performance. Not sure how much the visual quality will be reduced by, but let's find out. We're going to drop at the tilted towers again. The frame time graph is going a little bit haywire there. Not sure what's up with that. Alright, but we are on the ground and the frame time graph looks a little bit better. Well, we are getting 160 frames per second. I'm going to start recording. And we got our first kill. Doing about 210 frames per second indoors. That's a hefty jump up from 90 we had previously. Not exactly sure what the difference is in quality. Maybe the anti-aliasing. The edges look a little bit more jaggy. But this being a competitive shooter, you're not going to stand around and scrutinize each and every edge. To be honest, I did not expect this big a jump switching to performance mode. And we are getting about double the frames per second. Zooming in, you can definitely see the loss in quality. And it sounds like we've got a Darth Vader here somewhere. Is he friendly? Is he hostile? What's his... It's a Robocop. Okay, lots of fighting happening here. I have seen a few people. I don't want to give away my position just yet. And we actually hit one with a sniper rifle. A good job. Not so good job now. Nope. Oh, and we came 27th this time. So the last time we checked, we had over 200 frames per second average. So that's almost 3 times as much as the previous run. So performance mode is definitely a very good mode to run on if you've got a very low end graphics card. I actually just want to see how far we can take the resolution. We're going to try 1440p and 4K. Let's see if we can actually do 4K on a 750 Ti. Okay, so we're now playing at 1440p. We are getting around 80 frames per second here in the bus. We're gonna drop down to tilted towers once again. And so far on performance mode at 1440p, we are definitely getting better frames per second than what we had at 1080p in DirectX 11 mode. So performance mode definitely does something. Once again, as we get nearer to the ground, we are seeing the frame time graph freak out just a little bit. Maybe that's just loading in assets. I do have downloading of high detail textures enabled, so it might be that as well. I don't play this game often enough to actually say exactly what's happening. But we are now on the ground and we are getting above 100 frames per second at 1440p. Definitely not bad. And people are already shooting at us. We'll probably not finish this benchmark. Oh, we missed that one. And we missed that guy, luckily. Let's just try and get out of here. Got no idea where I'm going. The frame times definitely aren't nearly as consistent as it was previously, but the frames per second is still pretty high for 1440p. We do get some drops during fights, which is definitely not ideal. I'm guessing we have progressed past the noobs. Definitely we have. Yep. And now we see my true skill. Alright, so that was at 1440p, got an average of 115 frames per second, and now we're just going to try 4K. Alright, so now we're at 4K, still running on performance mode. Let's see what happens. Just so we're clear, I don't recommend you play this game at 4K if you've got a 750 Ti, not even in the performance mode. I don't think that we'll have that great of an experience. Performance mode can only help so much. Right, we're back in the bus and we are getting about 45 frames per second here. definitely not as smooth as the previous run. A lot of stuttering actually. I mean, you might look at the current frames per second and think this is not too bad. And sure, 40 frames per second at 4K, it's definitely quite impressive for an 8-year-old card. I do think that the stutters that we are seeing, as you can see on the frame time graph there, sometimes it spikes up to 70 milliseconds, comes down to 4 milliseconds. And I think it's because we're running out of VRAM. You can see the VRAM usage is almost at 2 gig. And this is the 2 gig version of the 750 Ti. So there's a lot of swapping of assets happening, and it has to revert to system memory if it runs out of VRAM. So sitting inside, we do get about 60 frames per second, which is not terrible. But obviously, you're not going to just stay inside. Or if you're anything like me, then you might just stay inside for the whole match. It's probably the safest place to be. Right, but this is a benchmarking video, not a skill video. So let us see what the performance is like outside. I'm not going to expect much. And we are down in the lower 50s. It's not the best experience. It's not terrible, but I wouldn't play like this. I'd much rather play at 1080p in performance mode. That was definitely a very, very good experience. And oh, we got our first kill again at 4K. Oh, maybe I was wrong. Maybe 4K is the way to go. The biggest concern here is actually the input lag. It doesn't feel too bad, but it's definitely noticeable. And if you play an online competitive game like Fortnite, then you will definitely be affected by input lag. I don't know what the shark is supposed to do. All I do know is it seems to be a little bit aggressive. It's gonna try and kill this guy. Oh, now I have to reload. That's not ideal. And again, I have to reload. Alright, so there's our shark friend. Don't know why he's shooting the shark instead of me. I mean, I'd like to blame this on the input lag, but it's not all just about the input lag here. The shark is quite funny. See, now you shoot the shark and then somebody else takes advantage of that and kills you. Alright, so I'm going to stop the benchmark run right there. So we got an average of 50 frames per second, which is not terrible at 4K. As I said, I wouldn't play this game at 4K with the 750 Ti. I probably wouldn't even play this game at 4K with my 3070. 1080p or 1440p would be ideal to get the highest frames per second and the lowest input lag. Right, and that's it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and as always, hope to see you guys in the next one.